They say getting older brings wisdom, peace, and more time for yourself. And yes, there's truth in that. But what if that's only part of the story? If you're navigating senior life or approaching that milestone of 80, you might be expecting a slower pace, more rest, maybe a few doctor visits. But what many people don't realize is that life after 80 comes with changes that most folks don't prepare for. These aren't the usual tips you hear in retirement guides or cheerful aging ads. These are the harsh truths no one talks about. What happens to your world when it starts getting quieter? Why does your body surprise you in ways it never used to? What does it really mean to feel unseen, even when you're surrounded by people? These questions don't have easy answers, but they matter because they reflect the real-life experiences of seniors all over the world. Maybe you felt some of these shifts yourself, but didn't know how to name them. Or maybe you've seen it happen to someone you love. In this video, we're going to uncover 5 powerful truths about senior life that often go unspoken, but once you understand them, everything begins to make more sense. So before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you never miss out on stories that matter. All right, let's begin. Reality 1, the shrinking world of social connection. It was a quiet Thursday when Oliver noticed it. He sat in his recliner, sunlight spilling through the window, warming the worn fabric under his arms. He looked at the phone on the side table, not a single missed call in 3 days. That wasn't unusual, but it wasn't always like that either. Oliver had been a high school principal for 31 years. He had once juggled a ringing office phone, a hallway full of teenagers, and parent meetings back to back. But at 84, life had settled into a different rhythm. Calmer, yes, but also quieter, sometimes painfully so. What many don't realize until they live it is that after 80, the social world you once moved in so freely begins to dim, not with drama, but with distance. The invitations taper off. The drop-ins grow rare. You start spending more time recalling conversations than having them. This isn't about bitterness. It's about a natural, though jarring, transition that most people don't talk about. The truth is, friendship in old age requires more effort, but often meets more resistance. People move away, they pass on, they forget. And not maliciously, life simply takes over. Children become busy with their children. Neighbors move out. Even if you're healthy and independent, you can start to feel like your presence isn't needed as often anymore. In medicine, we speak a lot about physical health, but the science on loneliness is just as alarming. Dr. Julianne Holt-Lundstad's research at Brigham Young University found that loneliness increases the risk of early death as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's not just a mood, it's a health crisis, especially in older adults. Still, the experience of social shrinking isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's just noticing that your coffee sits untouched a little longer, or that a week went by and no one asked how you were doing. It might be the way laughter echoes differently now, fainter, as if from another room. But here's something important. Grief over fading connection doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're still capable of deep love, and love always grieves when it's not fed. Let me tell you about June. She's 86, used to be a travel photographer, lived out of suitcases and hotel rooms for decades. Now she lives alone in a condo overlooking a lake. When I asked her how she coped with the silence, she smiled and said, "I stopped waiting for the world to come to me. I started sending postcards again, real ones. And sometimes they come back with handwritten letters." June wasn't trying to recapture her old life. She was making space for new threads of connection, even if they were thinner, quieter. The shrinking of our social world is inevitable, but it's not absolute. A single meaningful phone call can soften the edge of isolation. A neighbor's hello can remind you you're still part of something. Even a chat with the clerk at the grocery store might be enough to pull your spirit forward. This isn't the time to count the number of people who show up. It's time to cherish the quality of those who do. 1 or 2 real connections in your 80s can be deeper than 20 surface ones from your 40s. You become more selective, more grateful, more attuned to who listens, not just who speaks. So yes, the social world shrinks, but the heart can expand. And if you're willing to keep reaching out, even quietly, even slowly, those moments of connection can still bloom, even late in the season. If you're still with us, We'd love for you to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell so you never miss an update. If you have thoughts or questions, leave them in the comments below or just type the number 1 to let us know you're still here watching. Reality 2. How small health problems become big ones. Eleanor had always been a strong woman. At 82, she still baked her own bread every Sunday, grew tomatoes in clay pots on the balcony, and walked to the library twice a week. She didn't feel old, at least not in the way she thought old age would look. But one afternoon after trimming her plants, she noticed a tiny cut on her shin. Nothing serious. She dabbed it with ointment and went about her day. By the next morning, it was red. 2 days later, it was hot to the touch. A week after that, Eleanor was in the hospital with an infection that would take 3 weeks to treat. "I used to bounce back," she told me quietly. "Now it feels like I fall deeper." That's one of the hardest truths to accept after 80. Small things don't stay small. A sore throat doesn't just pass, it lingers. A skipped meal doesn't just mean a rumbling stomach. It can throw off your energy for days. A stumble, once brushed off with a laugh, now carries the weight of serious injury. As a physician who has worked with older patients for decades, I've seen this again and again. The body doesn't just slow down, it becomes less predictable, less forgiving. The systems that once worked silently in the background now require attention, awareness, and sometimes help. Science supports what many seniors already feel. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Gerontology found that recovery time from minor illnesses increases significantly after age 80 due to changes in immune function, muscle mass, and hydration balance. What this means is that what used to be a nuisance in your 60s can become a crisis in your 80s if ignored. But what makes this change even more difficult isn't just physical. It's emotional. It can feel like betrayal. You've trusted your body all your life. You've relied on it to carry you through decades of parenting, working, dancing, gardening, climbing stairs. Now suddenly, it demands more than it gives. And it's frustrating, especially if you've always been independent. You may find yourself wondering why something as basic as dehydration can make you dizzy, or why you need a full day to recover from what used to be a simple cold. Here's what I tell my patients and myself. This isn't failure. It's transition. Your body hasn't given up on you. It's simply asking for something new. Attention, care, grace. Where once you powered through without a second thought, now you must pause, listen, and respond. Let me share Liam's story. He's 85, a retired firefighter with hands like stone and a heart to match. He told me he used to go for long walks every morning, rain or shine. But after a mild bout of the flu, he couldn't make it to the end of the block without needing to sit. "I thought I was done," he said, "but I wasn't. I just needed to adjust." Liam began pacing himself, shorter walks, more breaks, warm-ups before stepping out. He started tracking his water intake, eating more protein, sleeping an extra hour. It wasn't about giving in, it was about getting smarter. And now, a year later, he's back to walking. Slower, yes, but steady. That's the key. Aging well isn't about being invincible. It's about learning how to adapt, how to meet your body where it is today, not where it used to be. You don't need to chase who you were. You need to care for who you are. So if you're noticing more bruises, longer recoveries, strange new aches, don't brush them off. Don't be ashamed. Pay attention. Speak up. Ask for help when needed. Rest more, hydrate more, and be more forgiving with yourself. This stage of life doesn't mean you stop. It means you move with wisdom. And if you're still watching, let us know you're here. Please subscribe to the channel so you won't miss what's coming next. And if something in this chapter resonated with you, drop a comment below or just type the number 2 to show you're still with us. Reality 3. The quiet loss of visibility in social spaces. Charlotte sat at the dinner table with her family, 3 generations around her, plates filled with roast chicken and potatoes. Laughter echoing through the room. She smiled, taking it all in. But as the evening wore on, something subtle began to settle in her chest. Each time she spoke, someone seemed to interrupt. When she offered a memory from her youth, it went unnoticed. When she made a joke, no one laughed. By the end of the night, Charlotte felt like wallpaper, present but not part of the conversation. This is one of the most painful and rarely talked about shifts that happens after 80. You begin to feel invisible. It's not always intentional. People don't set out to ignore you. But culture has a way of casting shadows over those it no longer considers central. The world speeds up, technology evolves, and the voices that are loudest often belong to those with the newest updates, not the oldest wisdom. As a doctor, I've had patients describe this feeling as if they were slowly fading. In waiting rooms, they're talked about, not to. In stores, clerks direct questions to their adult children. At family gatherings, their comments are overlooked, not out of cruelty, but out of assumption. The world sees age before it sees the person. There's a quiet grief in that, and it's not about ego, it's about recognition. After all, many elders have lived through wars, recessions, births, deaths, and revolutions in science, society, and technology. They carry inside them entire libraries of experience. Yet in public and sometimes even at home, their presence feels muted. I once met a man named Samuel, a retired railroad engineer who used to command teams of workers with nothing but his voice. Now, he told me, I have to repeat myself just to be heard in my own kitchen. That wasn't about hearing loss. It was about relevance. Sometimes, he said, it feels like I'm the punctuation at the end of a sentence, not part of the story anymore. This reality can weigh heavier than physical pain, because when the world stops seeing you, it becomes easier to stop seeing yourself. But there's another side to this story. Being overlooked does not mean you are without worth. In fact, it offers a unique kind of power, one that comes from no longer needing to prove yourself. It means you can speak with clarity, not volume. You can choose your words with care, knowing that the right people will lean in, not away. Charlotte, for instance, didn't retreat after that family dinner. She began writing down her stories, by hand, in journals, and later with her granddaughter's help, online. Her words reached hundreds of strangers who saw not just her age, but her insight. I thought I had nothing left to say, she told me. Turns out, I'd just been talking to the wrong audience. There's dignity in knowing you still carry value even when the world forgets to look. And there's strength in refusing to be erased. So speak up, even if it means repeating yourself. Tell your stories, even if they aren't trending. Laugh loudly, even if no one gets the joke. The people who matter, the ones with real hearts, real ears, real patience, they will listen. Maybe not always right away, but eventually. Remember, being quiet is not the same as being silent, and being older is not the same as being invisible. If this chapter spoke to something you felt in your own life, don't let it pass by. Subscribe to our channel for more reflections like this. And if you're still watching, leave a comment below or just type the number 3 to let us know you're still with us. We're listening. Always. Reality 4, the narrowing of your daily life. For most of his life, Theodore's days had a rhythm: morning coffee with the paper, a walk to the corner store, chats with neighbors on the front porch, dinner at the same table his children grew up around. But at 86, the rhythm began to change, not abruptly, but subtly. The walk to the store became too tiring. The neighbors moved or passed away. The porch grew quieter. The paper still came, but fewer pages seemed worth reading. I used to go out just to say hello to the world, he told me. Now I look out the window and feel like the world is moving without me. It's one of the most disorienting parts of aging. Your daily life begins to shrink. Not because you've chosen solitude, but because the world quietly rearranges itself until your routine, once wide and full, becomes narrower than you expected. This isn't about giving up. It's about loss, not of life itself, but of the little things that give life texture. The cafe you loved closes down. The driver's license expires. The garden gets too difficult to kneel in. What was once your normal becomes a memory. And while these changes may seem small to others, to you they're pieces of a map that no longer leads anywhere familiar. In my practice, I've seen many older adults wrestle with this change, not just physically, but emotionally. The world outside gets harder to reach, and if you're not careful, the world inside starts to dim too. There's even a term in geriatric psychology for this: spatial constriction. It refers not only to the physical boundaries shrinking, but the psychological sense of space and possibility narrowing. It's associated with increased risk of depression, sleep disruption, and reduced cognitive stimulation. But here's what matters. Shrinking doesn't mean empty. A smaller life can still be a full one if it's filled with meaning. Let me tell you about Clara. She's 88, used to teach poetry to high school students. Once, she took cross-country train trips every summer. Now, arthritis keeps her close to home. But rather than surrender to stillness, she reinvented her days. She joined a virtual book club with women across the country, some her age, others decades younger. She began writing letters again, the kind with stamps and ink and stories. My world got smaller, she said, but my words went farther. Clara's days might look quiet from the outside, but they are rich because she filled them with what still brings her purpose. That's the choice we face after 80. Not whether the world will shrink, it will, but what we'll do with the space that remains. Will we fill it with worry or wonder? Will we chase what's lost or nurture what's still possible? Maybe that short walk around the block becomes your adventure. Maybe a weekly call becomes your new ritual. Maybe you finally try painting or journaling or telling stories to your great-grandchildren, even if only through a screen. Your life doesn't need to be wide to be worthy. It needs to be present, intentional, awake, and most of all, it needs your permission to change shape. So if you find yourself doing less, going fewer places, seeing fewer people, don't measure your days by their size. Measure them by their soul. If a moment moves you, it counts. If a small joy lifts you, it's enough. If your presence comforts someone else, even silently, it matters. If this chapter resonates with you, please consider subscribing to our channel so we can keep bringing you thoughtful conversations like this. And if you're still watching, leave a comment or just type the number 4 to let us know you're here and that you're living fully in your way. Reality 5, the unpredictability of your own body. Some mornings everything works. The joints feel steady, the head is clear, and the hands grip the coffee mug without a tremble. You might even feel young. Not youthful, but grounded, capable. And then there are the other mornings. Those are the ones when you wake up and something's off. The knee doesn't bend right. The vision feels slightly blurred. The dizziness creeps in after standing too fast. You didn't do anything different. You didn't fall, didn't forget a pill. Your body just decided without warning to change the rules. That's what makes this stage of life so hard to manage. After 80, your body becomes less predictable. It's not a single decline, it's an up and down dance. One day, you're strong enough to rake the leaves. The next, the idea of getting out of bed feels like a mountain. For many seniors, this is more than frustrating, it's scary. Because once your body becomes unreliable, your confidence often follows. That unpredictability chips away at the sense of safety you once had, not just in the world, but inside your own skin. I remember a woman named Denise, 84, who once told me, "I can't trust my knees anymore. They decide for me." She loved going to church on Sunday, walking through the park with her granddaughter, browsing shops downtown. But after a sudden fall in the kitchen one morning, no warning, no slippery floors, she started saying no to everything. Not because she couldn't do it, but because she wasn't sure if she could. That's the hidden tax of physical unpredictability, the shrinking of freedom. But here's the truth, your body may no longer follow the same script, but that doesn't mean you've lost control. You just have to learn a new way to listen. There's a concept in geriatric medicine called functional reserve. It's the body's buffer zone, the ability to bounce back from stress. After 80, that reserve thins. You still have strength, but less room for error. And that means paying closer attention to signals you once ignored. Let me tell you about Vernon. He's 87 and used to climb ladders fixing his roof well into his 70s. After 2 unexpected dizzy spells, he felt betrayed. "My legs were always my best feature," he joked. But instead of letting it defeat him, he made changes. He added a railing in the hallway. He stopped rushing. He learned balance exercises from a physical therapist. And he told me something that stuck with me. "I don't move the way I used to, but I move like someone who knows his body better now." That's what adaptation looks like. Not giving up, but adjusting with wisdom. You may have days when you feel off balance. You may cancel plans because of fatigue you can't explain. You may grow frustrated when your hands fumble with buttons or your legs feel stiff for no reason. But what matters most isn't that these moments happen. It's how you respond. Build in more rest. Stay hydrated. Stretch. Keep a journal of patterns, what you eat, how you sleep, how you move. Bring those notes to your doctor, not just to report what's wrong, but to understand how your body is evolving. Because the more you understand it, the less powerless you feel. You're not just living in a body, you're in relationship with it. And like any relationship, it takes effort, attention, and sometimes patience when things don't make sense. So no, you may not always be able to predict how your body will behave, but you can prepare, you can adapt, you can stay curious, and above all, you can give yourself the compassion to have both strong days and slow ones. If this chapter gave you something to think about, let us know. Subscribe to our channel so we can keep offering honest reflections like this. And if you're still watching, leave a comment or just type the number 5 to remind us you're here and still showing up for yourself one day at a time. Final thoughts: growing older, growing deeper. Aging past 80 is not an ending. It's a different kind of beginning. Yes, the world changes, the body changes, the silence grows louder. But so can the wisdom, the clarity, the depth of your spirit. You've walked through decades of life, loved, lost, laughed, and endured. These 5 realities we've shared today are not signs of weakness. They are the fingerprints of a life well lived. And recognizing them doesn't mean you're giving in. It means you're finally allowed to be honest about the path you're walking. You're not alone in these changes, and you're not invisible, fragile, or forgotten. You are necessary. You are still capable of surprising yourself. And your story still matters, now more than ever. The lesson is this: the measure of a life isn't in how loud it is or how fast it moves. It's in how deeply it touches others. And you, simply by being here, watching, reflecting, you're doing that. You're showing up for yourself. So take the slower walk. Tell the old story one more time. Laugh when no one else understands the punchline. Your presence carries more weight than you think. If this video moved you, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next one. There's so much more we want to share with you. Thank you truly for spending this time with us. And wherever you are, may peace, joy, and gentle strength follow you into the days ahead.